Welcome to the Lazy Fluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese, so you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey.
And I'm Yami.
And the topic of the day is...
大人って何?
But before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and or drop a review on whatever platform you are listening on. We appreciate the support. But with that out of the way...
大人って何? はい、じゃあ今回はですね、大人って何っていうことで、このテーマの本筋はというとですね、最近っていうか結構、大人の味とか、大人になったらわかるとか結構、そういう表現があるだけど、大人ってなんだろうって思って、で、ジョイに聞きたいんですけど、大人って何ですか?
Okay.Do you mean the 大人の味? Are you referring to like the chocolate bars?
そう、なんか例えば、ダークチョコレートとかだとさ、なんか日本だと大人の味とかなんか書いてあるのよ。要するに苦いってことね。そう。
Oh, that's what I always, I guess that makes sense. I thought when I read 大人の味 that it was like sexy. I don't know why I got that impression.
違う。
I don't know. I thought it's something essential, but it means it's bitter. So it's dark chocolate. Or does it mean it's dark chocolate? Is that what 大人の味 is?
なんか、そう。ダークで、なんて言うんだろう、あんまりミルクとか入ってない、甘くないチョコレートで、だいたい大人の味って書いてある。例えば 70% カカオが入ってるとか、なんか、
Yeah, I've always thought that's a pretty funny thing with. So I mean, the same thing is with coffee. There's in English, it's the same thing. We're not with adult. I guess it would be like an adult palate or like a child's palate, or like you have like child taste buds or something. But what they mean is basically like for coffee and for a sweet. And I get told this a lot because I don't like coffee. I can endure dark chocolate, but generally speaking, I actually don't really like sweet things either, but if I had to choose between, I guess a sweet thing and a very bitter thing, I would normally tend to, or at least I used to when I was younger, I guess, tend towards a sweet thing. And my brothers and other people would always be like, not like you have to grow up like seriously, but like they'd be like, you have the child's like the taste buds of like a kid. Nowadays, I actually don't have. Like, I don't really like sweets that much at all for a whole other reason. I like went like on in, I think it was like middle school or something, or at one point I just decided that I didn't want to drink soda or like eat candy. And then so I didn't for like a decade. And one day I decided I didn't want to. I think part of it had to do with we have these big like 1.25 liters of soda at like our dollar store, which is like the same thing as like the 100円, what is it? 100円ショップ?
100均みたいな感じの。
Yeah. And so I used to go with my friends. We would get like 2-3 of these big, like it'd be a discount brand soda like Shasta. It's like a ripoff of Coke and Pepsi and some other stuff. We'd throw them in a like one of those like little like sacks, those knapsacks you throw behind your back, and we'd sneak them into the movie theater, and then we just chug like 1.25 liters. Oh, I guess you would know liters. Yay! Yeah, liters. You know liters.
2.5 リットルぐらいのソーダを。
Yeah. And we would just down those during the movie. And at some point, I guess I just thought the whole thing was so foul that I just got grossed out from sugar in general. But anyways, to leave from that detour, I always thought it was funny that like sweetness and something tasting good and pleasurable is childlike, and something being bitter and like actively not like bitter is not an inherently pleasant experience. With something's bitter and you don't go, yes, that's so bitter. So that's called being an adult. And I've always thought that's hilarious. Pain is adulthood, and pleasure is childhood.
そうだね。多分子供は我慢できないからっていうのも関係あるのかな?
Yeah. And gaman as in like having self-restraint?
とか、まあそうだし、あと苦いのって要するにちょっと我慢みたいな感じじゃん。そんなあんまりプレゼントじゃないから、苦味自体は。
Yeah, being an adult, that's an interesting definition of like being an adult is a measure of how much pain you can self-inflict.
そう。で、まあ、なんていうの、今回、その、大人の定義についてちょっと、考えていきたい、その、哲学あやみモードに入っていくので、よろしくお願いします。ってなわけで、じゃあ、その、まあ、後で上位に、上位が思う大人の定義についてちょっと教えてもらいたいんだけど、まあ、まず、はじめに、その、ネットでどういう大人の定義がどう書かれているかっていうと、その、大人っていうのは、十分に成長した人、成人、考え方や態度が十分に成熟していること、思慮分別があることって書いてある。はい。ちょっとこれさ、なんて言うんだろう。曖昧じゃない？なんか、丸く、なんか収まってるけど、ちょっとぼやぼやしてる感じっていうか。そう。
Yeah, for sure.
そう。で、逆に、じゃあ子供の定義は何かっていうのを調べてみたんだけど、これはちょっとごめんなさい、英語で。So there's a child's definition, someone who is older, authoritative?
Yeah, authoritative.
Wait.
Yeah.
There's a child who's doubt-free, decisive and doubt-free. So this is for, あれ大人の
Child.
child
No, so
か。そうだよね、doubt-free だから。
authoritative, doubt-free, and indecisive? Is that what you said?
そう。decisive. そう。だから、
decisive. Hold up. Are you sure you don't have that backwards?
どういうこと？
That's fine. No, just go ahead. Continue.
これ子供の定義でいいんだよね。
just go ahead. We'll figure it out.
Okay. まあいいや。で、まあ要するに、まあ大人って結構曖昧だから、ちょっとどう思う？大人の定義、個人的にどう思いますか？何を大人だと思いますか？自分が大人だと思う？まず。
I have a funny anecdote before I get into my own definition, which I think is pretty entertaining, which is I mentioned I took some Japanese classes, and during one of them was an English class, but it was about manga. So we were reading manga, and we read The Tale of Genji, the manga version of it. And so, do you know anything about The Tale of Genji? Genji Monogatari.
源氏物語、はい。
Yeah, do you know anything about the general like structure of the story?
なんか結構ドロドロしたね。なんて言うんだろう。ラブストーリーだよね、あれは。
I guess depends how you define love, but yeah, there's not to spoil the whole thing, but Genji, I mean, my interpretation of Genji Monogatari is it's like it's like an old school sort of 50 Shades of Grey. I'm not sure you know 50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, where it's just like you have this pimp Genji who's like got banished from royalty for some reason, I can't remember why. And then he just goes around basically wooing a bunch of side women and being like, "Hey girl, you're nice," and then like sleeping with them. But anyways, there's the girl that he's the most like smitten by is somebody called Murasaki, who the first time Genji meets Murasaki, she's 9 years old. And he walks up to Murasaki when she's 9 and goes, "I will marry you, but you're too young right now, and I respect you, and I want you to mature. So I'll marry you in 5 years. So when you're 14."
5 years でも still 若いけどね。
Well, yeah. So the class that I was with was very, very. I mean, okay, I'm not saying presenting very liberal as a bad thing in this context, but I'm just saying a little closed-minded in terms of the fact that this was written in a completely different time period. So the second that they heard that Genji basically marries a 14-year-old and basically hits on her when she's 9, they had like a meltdown. They're like, "How is this allowed? Why are we reading this? This is pedophilia." And then my professor was like, "Well, actually, the definition of this is how it plays into what we were talking about being an adult, is that being an adult has changed a lot through many different cultures, whether Roman, Greek, and other, and the like age being directly connected to it, or like whether it's fertility being connected to being an adult. Like some older cultures, even to this day in India, think that when a girl is able to like have babies, so when they turn basically 12, whatever, they're officially an adult. Or for men, it's when they can like work and be self-sustaining. And so for a lot of cultures, this is something my professor was saying, like children were not differentiated, like what we would consider children and their age were not differentiated from what we would consider adults, like at all. It's kind of like you have people who are born and then people who are working, like then you have people who are working, and that's everybody. And the notion of like I'm saying a child was a lot looser. So I'm not saying, to be clear here, I'm not saying that I think 9-year-olds are adults. I just think that's an interesting thought. And it was very hilarious in the moment thinking about Genji hitting on a 9-year-old. At least given how much it triggered the entire class. They're like, what is this? Especially and then some people thought that a man wrote the story, because they're like, a man must have wrote this, a perverted guy. But Genji Monogatari is written by a woman, actually. So they were even more confused by that. But anyways, with that anecdote out of the way, which hopefully was entertaining, for me, so I don't really worry about this as much. My personal philosophy is kind of like, maybe if I were to define adult, I would say it is something along the lines of knowing what you want and having the determination to put in the work to get it. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll get it, but because everything, like in life, things aren't settled. But like for example, if you want to be, I don't know, a manga artist or a professor or whatever, like not for one, recognizing that, and then two, having the discipline to actually achieve it. And for me, it doesn't really matter what you want to do, whether that even be like a recluse. If you like really want to, if you want to go to the middle of the mountains of nowhere and like live on your own, like some Buddhist styles, as far as I'm concerned, there's then you're an adult by my standards. Or a lot of other people tend to think that like you need to, I've heard other definitions of like an adult is being able to take care of someone else, sort of. But I don't really necessarily believe that to be an intrinsic part of that.
じゃあ要するに、まあ、今言ってくれたのは、自分がやりたいことを、なんていうの、ちゃんと具体的に持ってて、それをね、やろうとする力を持ってる人が大人かな?
Not really I guess less the power to do, but I guess it would be the power, depending on how you define power. But it's not like it's more like the willpower. I'm saying the willpower and
willpower,
determination.
So
yeah, and not willpower determined in like a one, not like willpower in the sense of like a one instance of emotion, but like the willpower in a more fundamental sense to like get something done, to put, whether it be like not in the moment, but to be able to actually make a plan, to follow through on the plan, to do what you have to do to try to achieve your goals. And if those goals are parenting, then that would be also part of that as well. But
結構さ、まあ世の中にはね、子供でもさ、ちゃんと将来のことをめちゃめちゃ考えて、なんかすごい子とかいるじゃん。例えばちっちゃい頃から数学者になりたいから大学の数学まで全部やっちゃう子とか。そういう子ってじゃあ大人なの？そうすると。ちゃんと将来数学者になりたい。で、今やることも分かってる。
I mean, if that's an intrinsic motivation for them, then yeah. But if that's something they're parents, for example, I don't see somebody who is like, what's the word? Somebody who has everything told and laid out for them, and they're able to excel at that. I don't consider that an adult. Like somebody could be a genius. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those like Asian parents who have those like 3-year-old pianist kids, and then they grow up completely like their entire lives they've been told what to do, and they're given freedom. They just don't know what to do, and don't really have any aim or goal, I don't really consider that an adult. So I don't really consider an adult with competency, but I do think being competent at something helps you develop the framework to be an adult.
まあそうだね。まあこれもまた違うエピソードでさ、アジアとまあアメリカでものなんていうの、教育の違いとかもできるね。アジアだとさ、よくね、言われた親のレールでちょっと行く傾向があるから。まあそうだね。じゃあなんかここに何歳からが大人っていう質問に対して日本の人がどう答えてるかのなんかアンケートみたいなのがあって、で、一番多いのが成人式を迎える20歳が一番多くて、今 26%。そう。20歳。多分、あれいつから変わったかわかんないけど、18歳で成人になるっていうのが確か最近決まったのかな。だから、そうすると、それは18歳になるんだけど、まあ要するに、そう、in Japan で。まあでも、私の時は成人式20歳だから、まあそこで大人って考える人が一番多くて 26% だと。はい。で、次に多いのは、社会人として自立する30歳が 22% って書いてあるから、まあ要するに仕事もちゃんと安定してきて、自分で稼いで、家族も持てるのが多分30歳あたりじゃん。
Yeah.
だからそこで大人だと思うっていうのがまあ2番目に多いらしい。だから、
yeah.
そう、結構あれだね、住んでる国の法律にも影響されるよね。個人がいつからが大人と考えるかっていうのが。
Yeah, there's an interesting thing about that I was thinking about, like another definition of an adult that I don't fully fall in line in because I'm more skeptical. Like there's a whole, I mean, we could go into a whole personality of thing, but I tend to be more skeptical of institutions and like established structure. But a common and legally kind of what it means to an adult is to be someone who is capable of taking responsibility for their actions. And I don't think that is a sufficient definition, and I think it can also be very misleading because a lot of situations, the main factor in someone's situation does not have to do anything with what they've done. It has to do with the situation they were born in or other stuff like that. Granted, you can still work with what you've got, but generally speaking, for a court, really what it means, like when you turn 18 in America, what that really means is if you commit a crime, you're now going to be tried as an adult, which puts you with more responsibility, which also means you get more of a penalty.
18歳から。
Yeah, but I've always thought this to be, obviously, you have to kind of have a line somewhere that exists. I mean, you don't have to, but you technically could have a case-by-case basis, which we kind of do, establishing it. But I mean, it's helpful to have like a line and to say this is when you're adult. But I personally think this leads to a lot of really, really, really dumb conversations that happen both online and like nowadays, where you'll have like a 17 and 19-year-old and they're dating or something. And there are Romeo and Juliet laws with that a lot of people date. But basically people would be like, the 19-year-old is basically a pedophile. And I'm like, bruh, if you just move it back to 18 and 16, it's not that weird. Or like if somebody does something when they're 17 and they're like, oh, he's just a kid. But then they do it when they're 18 and they'll be like, you should know better. You're an adult. And I've always thought that's dumb because there are people clear into their 30s, 40s even, who really, for whatever reason or circumstance or whatever their personality or whatever circumstance, they never developed in the same way a lot of other people do. And they never had that experience. So I think it's really dumb to say you shouldn't. I don't know what it means to, you should know better. If someone doesn't know better, there's a reason. Yeah, there's a reason. It's not like they're just like I don't know what people are thinking. Yeah, no, they are normal completely, but they decided, for example, I don't know, to kill somebody or to go OD on meth. It's like these crimes and things don't happen out of nowhere. there's should know better really doesn't mean much. And especially when you just say, well, you're 18 now, so you should know better. And it's like, there are just, I don't really know. I mean, years are obviously like how old you are plays a big role into your development. But it is not the end all be all. And for a lot of people, I don't know who in my, like, I've never met an 18-year-old who I'm like, yeah, this person now is able to take full responsibility, and they really have lived enough life to be extremely confident in themselves, like in everything. Like, and that's kind of how we treat adults. Like, yeah, and I'm 25 and I still don't feel that way entirely. So.
それな。なんかね、その17歳だとまだ子供って言われてさ、そのまあ何ヶ月か後で18歳になってさ、大人だからもっとちゃんとしろとか言われてもね、そのくだらなくない？なんかそのね、なんて言うんだろう。数字でさ、大人じゃない大人とか決められたり、それで大人だから、なんかこういう責任があるからこうしろとかね。
Yeah.
そういうのは。
In Japan, is it common to, when you turn 18, for your parents to kick you out of the house? I don't think I've ever... Yeah, go ahead.
家庭、それぞれの家庭によるけど、まあでもね、日本だとあんまりない、どうなんだろうね。日本の大学だと、大抵の人は親が大学の授業料を多分払ってる家庭が多いんだよ、多分。でもアメリカだと多分自分でさ、ローン組んでやるでしょ？
Yeah.
そういった面だと、ね、日本の大学生はちょっとまだ親に頼ってるところはあるのかなっていう感じは。
Well, I mean, it really I said yes, but it really depends on your circumstance. Like, I mean, there's so many factors. There's like getting some government loans, which is extremely common, but then having your parents pay your tuition. Then there's you have to pay part of your tuition, your parents pays the other one. Then there's you have to pay the full tuition, but you're going to a cheaper school, like community college, because there's no way in hell any child can pay tuition to a good school by themselves. It's just impossible. Like, it's way too expensive. Like, you actually, there's no job you could have. If you could have a job that you could afford paying for full tuition, then you don't need to go to college to get a job, because you've already have enough money to pay. Yeah. So it's like, the US system is extremely broken, in my opinion.
まあ結構、まあ18歳は、そうだね。高校卒業して、まあ上京、田舎からなんていうの、都会、例えば東京とか大阪とかに、出る人は、まあ多いと思う。で、そうだね。で、地方から都会の大学行く人は一人暮らし始めたりとかするのかな。
Yeah. そう。I also do think it's interesting that, not to get too much into like an anime conversation, but there's this notion of like high school in Japan. We've talked about this a little before, but high school being the peak of like the life of a Japanese person. It's like the peak of all their interesting stuff, their clubs, everything going on, like romance, everything. And the second you become an adult, it's like you are now done. Your life is done and it's over. And you're now a background character with nothing interesting going on. And I've always found that framing. Yeah, exactly. And your seishun is dead. Yeah, I mean, the whole like adult conversation, to go back to my manga class for a bit, but a theme that came up a lot when we were talking about adulthood was the notion, like the Japanese notion of purity attached to youth, and youth being like, or seishun being like the ideal state, but it was beautiful because it was temporary. And like, that's why it's fleeting, and that fleetingness is what gives us its beauty. But it's like the second you become an adult, you're now worthless. And I recently, like literally today, I was watching a video about something called, oh gosh, I'm blanking. It's lying flat. It's a term called lying flat, which apparently is popular in the US, or sorry, in China, and it's starting to pick up some attention in the US. But it's the notion that you basically, you can see your future laid out for you, and given the current circumstance of the world, even if you were to work the hours that are expected of you for your entire life, you would probably, if you're an average person, won't have anything to show for it by retirement. So instead of going through all the expectations, and suffering to get to a terrible retirement, you can just live a chill life now and just work as barely as you need to.
そうだね。
Yeah. Wow, we've gone, it's actually, I'm surprised how much time's passed. We could have talked the whole episode about this. I still have a bunch of different thoughts.
そう。まあね、皆さんの意見もね、聞きながら。
Yeah. What does it mean to be an adult to you guys?
Yes. ものすごく興味ありますんで、ぜひコメントお願いします。
戻りました。やった。実はその最初のトピックについてもっと話したかったんだけど、まあ、しょうがない。
Yeah, we can create another episode about that. Yep.
すごく長い話になると思うんだけど、それ、
Yeah.
その大人って何という定義。
Yeah, it is an
interesting
topic.
今週は実は早く録音しているこの動画を。
Yes, exactly.
なぜかというと、ついに私の卒業式が行われます。卒業するのではなく、卒業式が行われる。
Yeah,
なぜかというと、
yep.
私が卒業したのは、その2020年コロナウイルスの年なんだけど、そのせいで2022年、なんだけど、まだその卒業式が行われてない。すごく最低だった。
Yeah, wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
いや、卒業式はちょっとどうでもいいんだけど、そういう終わった感じとか、その4年かけて頑張ってきたんだけど、そのちゃんとした終わりなかったんだから、それがちょっと悔しかった。それだけ。
So you just said goodbye to your teachers or classmates and you didn't
いや、そんなこと言えなかった。
No?
突然、最後のコロナウイルスのせいで全部がオンラインになってしまった。
Oh, wow. Well, that's kind of sad.
それマジで終わりなかった。なんか、さよならみたいなことなかった。ただ、最後の、宿題とか、課題とかやって、テストやって、終わり。
That's, wow. I can't imagine having that as the end of a beautiful college life.
なんか、ワンピースを最後まで、見てる感じなんだけど、でもその、なんか、ワンピースの1000エピソード見ていて、で、最後のエピソードが、なんか見られないって感じがした。なんかワンピースの話がちょっと、知ってるのその、ワンピースはすごく長くて、
Yeah, I know, I know. Yeah,
時点で1000以上のエピソードある。
Yeah. 1000? Wow. That's a lot.
そう。
Okay. And then, are you, what kind of stuff are you gonna do in this graduation ceremony?
4日間の、なんていうか、卒業式は最後の日だけ。で、卒業式前の日は、ただなんかいろんなイベントがある。その学生のために。
What kind of?
なんかパーティーみたいな、アルコールがあるところとか。
Oh, you hate alcohol,
わかんないんだけど。いや、私がなぜか言ってるかというと、卒業式のためでもなく、ただ、私の日本語の先生だけじゃなくて、その先生と他の友達にいい機会になれるかなと思ってたから、行こうと思っている。
Yeah, hopefully you can catch up with your teachers and classmates. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. So you're leaving in 2 days, right?
今日は水曜日だから、水曜日じゃない。今日は火曜日だから、そう、2日間で。2日間に、そう。
Wow. Just, enjoy your trip to your college and have a nice graduation ceremony. Yep.
そうします。
Yay.
で、
and
あゆみは
what about me, life updates?
そう。最近の、今何のパソコン使っているの
Okay, so I want to explain this. So my computer is kind of broken and I'm getting my computer fixed. And right now I'm using my sister's computer. Thanks to my sister. And the reason I broke my computer is I spoiled.
So.
Yeah.
Spilled a lot.
Spilled. Yeah. Spoiled one. No. Yeah, spilled. Yeah, my coffee. Yeah. Like 1 year ago. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And then like it was like, how do I say? I spilled my coffee like a river on my keyboard. And yeah, at that moment I was so panicked and I immediately put my computer upside down and then tried to get the coffee out of the computer and then I used dryer to dry my computer, and with that effort I thought I finally fixed my computer, but right now I'm having this battery problem. So yeah, I'm getting fixed. Yep.
もうそのバッテリーの問題が私が一番気に入れたことじゃなくて、そのバイキンでしたっけ？そのバイキンはちょっと違うかもしれない。でもアップルストアの問題。
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know how to say budget. 見積もり書 like the cost. The estimate cost.
そう。
Yeah, it's like
合ってる。
11万円, which is
like $1,000, over $1,000.
Yeah, so I was like, what?
でもそれは、それなんか全部説明。そのバッテリーだけが実は壊れてない。ただ、なんとなく、なんかが違うだけ。なんか使えるんだけど、エネルギーをよく使えないだけ。
いや。
ということは、その多分バッテリーをただ少しだけ掃除しなくちゃいけないか、新しいのを買わなくちゃいけない。それだけなのに、$1,000以上、今、何でしたっけ？チャージングしてる。
そう、見積もり書で。Yeah.
そう。
Yeah, so like, if it cost more than $1,000, right? Then I will, it's better to get a new one, right? So I'm just gonna wait. Yeah.
マックだと$2,000以上かかるでしょ。
Yeah, but like, yeah. But it's better to get a new one, じゃない？ Because
マック以外のことを買った方がいいと一応思ってるんだけど。
I'm an Apple user.
いや、それがユーザーじゃなくて奴隷だよ。そのアップルが前に話してたんだけど、こういうことが起こったとき、そのアメリカでは Right to repair という概念があるんだけど、それが自分が買った人がその直すため、なんかその力を持つべき。その元の会社に頼らなくて、自分でちゃんと直せる力を持った方がいいという概念。概念だけじゃなくて、法律でもある。でも、アップルに関してはそういう、今年、その Right to Repair のために、私の商品のために、何でしたっけ？自分、なんか$100で、その Repair Kit、一応買えるんだけど、去年まで、そのアップルのなんか会社が始めてから、その去年までずっと、その私たちの商品を買った人は、絶対に、その商品を触れてはいけない。そのなんか直すために。なぜかというと、壊すかもしれない。という変な概念を持っていたから、こういうなんか$1,000チャージしていた。その、ただのバッテリーの変更だけ。それはちょっと想像できない。他の、アップル以外の会社は、ただ$50でできることなのに、アップルだと、これは実は$1,000かかる。で、あゆみが言ってた、アップルのストアが、その店員さんが、そのアップルの変更できなかった。 できるかもしれないんだけど、そのアップルのせいで、その触れてはいけないルールがあって、それでそのバッテリーの問題があると、そうそうそう、直接そのメインのアップルの会社に送らなくちゃいけない。すごく嫌だ、それ。その、買った人はバカ、まあそのお客さんはバカだけではなくて、その店員さんもバカ扱いされてる。いやバカじゃなくて、バカ、なんかその扱いされてる。そのアップルから。いや、客だけじゃなくて、私たちの店員さんもバカだから、1000円払って自分で、まあ自分はアップル会社の、なんていうか、工場者とか、私たちがやらなくちゃいけない。バッテリーの変更はすごく難しいものなんだから。じゃなくて、まあ怒るんだから。アプリ大嫌い人、私。
we can debate the Apple haters and Apple lovers.
絶対に話した。なんか、今の時点でアップルはなんか、日本をちょっと、なんか、日本は洗脳されてるアプリに。
Yeah, I guess more than 80%.
80?
I don't know the exact.
80?
I don't know. This is my guess, but yeah. But I guess
60% 以上だと思ってた。
I don't know. 60? I don't know. So this is completely. I'm not sure, but yeah, we use iPhones. Yeah, we're iPads. Yeah, MacBook. So yeah.
でももともと、まあこういう、来週やりたいな。今週は話さないんだけど、こういう携帯の歴史は実はかなり面白い。日本に関しては。それだけ言う。後で話すんだけど、でも日本はもともとアップルのなんかみんなが同じことを使ってる国じゃなかった。その起業家の国だった。その携帯に関しては。でもそれは後で話す。来週やるかもしれない。結構面白いトピックになれるんだから。
はい、戻りましたとします。変な日本語だった。
Wait,
戻った。
I'm English now. I forgot you got me.
つられて日本語にしないの。はい。はい、じゃあまあこの最後のセクションに入る前にですね、皆さん何かを忘れてませんか？
I haven't forgotten anything. I think the viewers might have forgotten something. Actually, it's not your fault this week. We're recording this one early, like only 2 days, I think, after our last one. So it's not your fault. But I'll still blame you for not immediately sending a comment, question, and or language related and or otherwise to lazyfluency@gmail.com. lazyfluency@gmail.com. Because we don't have an email comment, but we do have a comment to respond to this week. And it's from our, I'm going to claim him. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
いつものね、BIP のね。
Yeah, I was about to say that he's our VIP status commenter, always dropping mad great comments, and so we have to respond to them. I don't know what to say. And if you don't want to hear any of his comments anymore, you better be commenting. And actually, we'll still probably talk about his comments because his comments are pretty good. Anyways, it's a comment from Shawcox, and it was left on YouTube, not lazyfluency@gmail.com. And it reads as follows. This is from last week, a response to last week. I'm interested in hearing more on the hikikomori thing. I've known some about it, but not as much as someone who did a senior project would know, so I think a deeper dive on that would be fun. Either here or on the other channel in a video essay type format. Also, I'm in Salt Lake City, and I'm pretty sure our homeless population is bigger than the entirety of Japan's homeless population. Googling this later, it's about the same size as Japan's. That, and it's wild that we have 4x more homeless people dying yearly than Japan's entire homeless population. And for the last one, if I could have a mob boss follow me around, that would be nice. Like just a resident mob boss to deal with all mildly rude people for me. Thanks for the comment.
Mildly rude people.
Shawcox. And yeah, there's a lot in that that I want to respond to. The first thing I'll say is the reason there are a few different topics, like probably 5 different topics that I've wanted to do a video or talk about on the podcast, but I have, even before we started this podcast, wanted to do a very in-depth video, like larger scale video on, and therefore I haven't mentioned it. And I still won't mention what those are, but I will mention that hikikomori is one of those topics, and that is why I have not mentioned it. In college, I majored in computer science and Japanese. I believe I mentioned that before. And for my Japanese senior project, or I guess college project, whatever the term is for however you've learned that term, was on hikikomori. And I'll leave it at, I don't know. I can talk, I know, not saying that we talk about something in podcasts, so I can't make a video on it. Like our first video on the channel was about katakana, which we talked about in one of the first 2 episodes. But at the same time, I do like the mystery aspect of something and making into a full video. So we might talk about subjects related to hikikomori, and we might actually just talk about hikikomori at some point on the podcast before I make the video, because the video I want to make, I don't have full control over the time schedule for reasons. It's more of a long project. So eventually I might just talk about part of hikikomori because it's such a huge topic in the podcast. But for the time being, I'm probably not making it a main subject, even though I really want to talk about it. And there's a like 5 topics like that in my head that, and something we didn't mention before is that kind of what we're thinking about with our main channel is maybe at some point we'll add in, we have a bunch of different types of videos, like general types of videos. Some require less time that we might end up experimenting and working on. But at the moment, kind of, we're seeing it as more, all of our videos are kind of like a larger project, sort of. And currently we have 2 videos that we're working on that require a lot of different types of footage. And it's very, very different from the first video, actually.
そうだね。じゃあまあ、
yeah.
いつになるかわかんないけど、メインチャンネルでやるのかな、引きこもりのトピックは。
Yeah, most likely.
そうね。
Yeah,
じゃあ楽しみにしといてください。
for some, I don't know if I can, I mean, I do look forward to it, but there's parts of the video that aren't directly in my control because they depend on the participation of other people, is how I would phrase it. And so some of that is not under my direct control. So the video in my head that I want to make, I'm not sure exactly when I'd be able to do it. But yeah, still don't look forward to it too eagerly, but look forward to it.
ハードル上げすぎるとちょっとあれってなっちゃうからね。
Yeah. And then, do you want to respond to some parts? Because I definitely want to respond to other parts, Ayami, of the comment.
どこ?
Oh, I'm just saying in general. Because I have.
まあそうね。日本はそのホームレスの人口がなんか少ないので有名らしいじゃん。あれ世界で1位少ないんだっけ?
Oh yeah, we looked it up because we somebody that communicated to us was saying that our statement that Japan solved homelessness was kind of basically insinuating that it wasn't true because there are homeless people. But upon looking it up, per capita, Japan has the least amount of homeless people in the world. So if I can make that statement about any country, I think it is reasonable to make it about Japan. Granted, what defines a homeless people? Yeah.
人口あたりのそのパーセント?
Yeah, well, per capita is like per capita means per a certain amount of people. So in this case, I think it was per 10,000 people. And it's basically saying like, if you take a random set of 10,000 people, how many of those people will be homeless? And Japan has the lowest. Yeah, exactly.
無作為に抽出して、その取った集団の中でどれぐらいホームレスがいるかっていうので、日本が一番ね、なんていうの ?1 位って言うとあれだから、一番ホームレスが少ない。そう。
Yeah, but obviously homeless by defined is not living on the street. And so yes, you will still see homeless in Japan. And yes, some of them aren't reported. But you can say that about every other country's reported amount of homeless people. And there's not, at least to what I know, an explicit reason. Like, for example, China has a history of making up their numbers to like quell their population. Same with Russia. The US does this as well with pandemic. Japan doesn't, except for like the coronavirus, which they kind of have that thing because they don't want to scare the elderly. Homeless people, as far as I know, isn't something that's on the minds of the average civilian that much. Like you said, you barely even thought about it. And you've been to Tokyo, you're relatively close to Tokyo. And I've never heard a Japanese person bring it up. So I don't personally see what the angle of the government would be to be fraudulent about their numbers to the extent that I still can't like basically say that they're doing it really well. They're handling the situation well.
まあでもなんていうのすごい不思議なのがさ、どうやって数えてんのって感じじゃない
？Yeah, but I mean I read that I guess I did read they like I said they're Are you as in like how they're asking people or how they're getting the data in the first place?
そうそう、データをさ、そう、データで例えばさ日本だと3000人ぐらいだったじゃん ?3000 人ってさ、どうやって数えたのって感じ。
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder that as well. Is like, how do they just track? It's like they just every time somebody spots a homeless people, they report it or something. I mean, there's probably a system in place for this that makes sense.
絶対さ、同じ人さ 5回とか数えそうだけど。
I mean, I'm pretty sure they're probably actually registering the person themselves. I don't know. When I read through, so I talked about like an article last time. There was a lengthy article, but I actually read through the official report from the Minister of Health in Japanese because they're, I mean,
厚生労働省。
Yeah. And I mean, they have a bunch of different PDFs that tackle a bunch of different exact like sections of the homeless problem across the entire population. And it seems like they surveyed the people because like they are able to know exactly why they're homeless and they ask them directly. So there's the people they probably don't have. Yeah, because remember it was listed their reasons. The people they had why they became homeless and stuff like that. So if I had to guess, it's probably the people that come to their shelters or other stuff like that, and or people that they go and like ask directly because they're homeless. But obviously that doesn't account for everyone. But because they have a bunch of information about their specific status, they like their jobs, for example, they have information about what jobs like sectors they were in, like. Obviously their age, they were able to gauge that, their sex, they were also able to gauge their, why they became homeless, as well as like what needs they need. So that would tell me that they're directly interacting with the homeless people. I doubt there's somebody just like counting people on the street.
本人しかさ、わかんないもんね。直接聞かないと、ね、どういう家庭でホームレスになったとかわかんないし、だから一人一人聞いてるってことかな、3000人。
Yeah, I mean they have it seems like a lot of money is put into this though. Like what we read, like how thorough they are in terms of trying to solve the problem. And I do think that people can get a larger impression of how bad the issue is if you live in Tokyo or you commute to Tokyo, because like it was like 30% of the homeless people in Japan or something are in Tokyo, or some number like 20-30%, which is like crazy. Like one city has that much of a nation's homeless problem. And even though it's not that big of a number, Tokyo, even though people say it's big, I mean, it's big in the fact that people go there, but relatively speaking, I think they're very popular areas. And like the closer you get to inner cities where people are always around, I think the more likely you're going to be seeing homeless people. That's how it's been in every city I've been to in the US. It's the places that are the most expensive to live, or whatever reason, they have concentrations of homeless people. You rarely just see one homeless people and then 10 miles later, another homeless people. You see a homeless person, you see another homeless person.
そうか、固まってんのか。
Yeah.
一人みたいな。
I mean, at least from my experience. So if chances are, if you are in a place where there are homeless people in Japan and you see one homeless person, you're probably going to see more homeless people, and then get the idea that like, even if it's just 3,000, if those 3,000 are in a specific location, that's a lot of homeless people.
ね、なんかコメントでも、そのロサンゼルスとかもすごいね、あとどこだっけ忘れたけど、すごい
問題になって。Yeah, New York, Los Angeles.
ニューヨークか、そう。やっぱ大きめの都市だよね、そういう。
Yeah.
やっぱね。まあ日本で言うと東京かな。やっぱ東京が一番メインの、ね、場所かな。ホームレ
I
スの人に
believe it
とって
was
は
Tokyo and Osaka.
そうだね。東京、大阪、まあ、大都市のあたりかな。
Yeah. And then your last part, I have to remember exactly
My
what
boss.
this is. Is this about like, I'm confused about the context of this. We might have directly asked the question that made sense. I'm blanking on last week's topic. Oh,
な
homelessness,
んか、
of course.
あれじゃん。喋ってなかったなんか、マッボスのさ、なんか言ってたよ。忘れたけど。
Oh, I said that I would hire people to assassinate people who didn't give an Apple review, I think, or
違う
but
違
did
う。違う。それのさ、60何時間かけてさ、日本から帰るのでさ、
Oh,
なんか時
yeah,
間
yeah,
か
you're
かっ
right.
て、
Oh, you're
バス
right.
か
Oh,
なんか
yeah,
だっ
yeah.
けそう。
Yeah, wait, so if I could have a mob boss follow me. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh. Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, no, he was he was cool. The old dude, a mob boss guy. It was just jarring, like because I've never been around a mob boss, and the fact that there was like a switch. It went from like I thought this was just an old dude, like I mean he was just an old dude struggling with the ticket thing, like trying to solve it, and then he did like something switched in his head, and his demeanor and tone, everything completely changed. And I was like, dude, the guy just got scary, and like gave this guy a dead look, and he's like, basically like if he fucks with me, he's dead. And I was like, whoa, I'm just trying to get on a bus. You don't have to get on this guy like that. But I appreciated it. I was like, dude, thanks for getting my back here. But yeah, you don't need to kill the dude.
心強いよね、近くにいたらね。まあ、味方として。
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. People are nice if you're not an asshole, even mob bosses. So like,
そうだね。
we didn't have it. We it's funny. We talked for probably like an hour before that thing happened. And we were just chilling. Because when I went to Las Vegas, I just wanted to get an idea of what the place was like. So that's why I walked the entire way down the strip, which is like, I don't know, some amount of miles long and 100-degree temperature. And I walked in and out of stores, I basically just wanted to get a snapshot of what it was like. And so I saw the extremely touristy areas, and I saw the less touristy, like the residential areas where people live. I talked to a lot of the Uber drivers because after when I came back, I didn't want to walk back. So I talked to some of the Uber drivers about their perspective of the city. I really don't like Los Angeles. I personally see it as like a place like it's either filled with degeneracy or complete depression. Like people are either depressed out of their mind, and the only people that I think enjoy Los Angeles are those who are wealthy enough to to basically treat these vices as hobbies, like that they can do. Because I guess I'm not saying like whatever. I don't think it's wrong to casually gamble or whatever, but I'm just saying those are really the only people who enjoy Los Angeles. And but the thing is, a lot of their their most consistent customers are people who are completely addicted to gambling, or prostitution, or like there's so many different sectors of like the vice city.
よくそれは聞く。ロサンゼルス住む人は、私も、まあ多分ジョイは知ってると思うけど、エマ・チェンバーレンよく聞くんだけど、ポッドキャストで。で、彼女も、ロサンゼルスはね、今住んでんだけど、もう、引っ越したいみたいな。YouTubers とか、そういう、なんていうの、インターネットにいる人たちが多くて。で、
Oh, I'm speaking about Las Vegas.
ラスベガスか。でも近くない？
Yes. No. Well, sort of actually. I mean, sort of. The states are touching, Nevada and California. But Los Angeles is very different from Las Vegas. Las Vegas is literally just like
gamble.
Yeah, it's just like a hub of like drugs, gambling, and sex, and then also like fake wealth, like showing like all these fake things that don't actually exist. Like I told you, the Eiffel Tower, the Pyramid of Giza. It's like the Dubai of the U.S. That's kind of what it is, where it like looks really cool with all these things, but there's no soul. And that's how I felt about Las Vegas. Sorry to those people who really like Las Vegas. Mob Boss was dope though. Yeah. That bell means we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us in another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and or are just looking for some general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com and we might respond in the next episode. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey
and Yemi
signing off. じゃあねー。
じゃあねー。